Imagine this. It's 7 p.m. in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, and Sarah Thompson, a single mom and warehouse worker, stands in her dimly lit kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the heavy silence. She pulls open the fridge door, revealing a near-empty shelf, a single loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter going stale, and a handful of wilted carrots scavenged from last week's markdown bin. Her 10-year-old son, Jake, hovers nearby, his eyes fixed on the empty fruit bowl where apples used to sit proudly. "Mom, can we have those tonight?" he asks, voice small. At $2.50 a pound, up 15% from last year, those apples aren't just fruit, they're a dream deferred. Sarah portions out the peanut butter sandwiches, 3 small ones on mismatched plates. One for Jake, one for his little sister, and one for herself. But as she slides hers back into the jar, her stomach knots, not from hunger alone, but from the quiet shame of it all. "Light night, kids," she whispers, forcing a smile as she tucks them into bed with stories of faraway adventures. In her heart, though, the real story is one of growling bellies and fading hopes. This isn't a rare hardship. It's the rhythm of 2025 for Sarah and millions like her. A 1.9% year-over-year rise in food-at-home prices through September is a statistic. It's the reason bedtime feels like a battlefield, where love means sacrifice, and tomorrow's meal is never guaranteed. She's among 47 million Americans in food-insecure households, where every grocery trip chips away at dignity, one skipped bite at a time. And as the days blur into weeks, Sarah wonders, how much more can a family bend before it breaks? This is the grocery grind, the relentless undercurrent reshaping American lives in ways that headlines gloss over. From bustling urban apartments where exhaustion hangs in the air like steam from a microwave dinner, to rural kitchens echoing with the worry of empty fields, it's a story woven into the fabric of everyday survival. Over a decade of chasing these tailies from factory shifts that end too late for home-cooked meals to community pantries, lined with quiet desperation, I've seen how a simple price tag can rewrite a family's future. Today, let's walk through it together, not as numbers on a screen, but as the human heartbeat behind them, the frustrations that simmer, the adaptations that emerge like stubborn weeds through cracked concrete, and the fragile hopes that keep people going when the pantry runs dry. It starts, as it always does, with the cold math that warms no one. The Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest Consumer Price Index paints a picture sharper than any knife in a drawer. Food-at-home prices, the everyday anchors of milk, eggs, and bread, edged up 1.9% over the past year through September 2025. A slower creep than earlier surges, but one that still outpaces wage growth for too many. It's the carton of eggs, battered by lingering supply echoes from avian flu waves. Now 27.3% pricier annually, turning a dozen from $2.50 to over $3.25. A splurge that means fewer omelets, more empty mornings. Beef and veal fares no better, climbing 13.9% year-over-year by August, with a 2.7% monthly jolt from July to August alone, adding $10 or more to the family grill budget. In Pennsylvania, where the pinch feels personal, grocery costs across 15 key categories have ballooned 8.2% in the last 12 months, forcing a family of 4 to fork over an extra $645 yearly just for the basics. These aren't distant trends. They're the reason Maria Gonzalez, a 42-year-old nurse in Orlando, Florida, stares at her cart like an adversary. Last month, she let me shadow her weekly ritual. The fluorescent-lit aisles of her local supermarket, where chicken breast that once fed her 2 boys for $8 now demands $11.50. "Ramen 3 nights running," she says, voice laced with a frustration that's equal parts fury and fatigue. "I'm pulling 50-hour shifts, saving lives by day, but at home? I'm rationing mine." Maria's story mirrors the national ache. Feeding America as 2025 Map the Meal Gap reveals child food insecurity hovering near 20% nationwide, with rural counties pushing even higher as families trade nutrition for necessity. Out in Lane County, Oregon, retired teacher Tom Riley knows this terrain all too well. Over black coffee, no sugar. Because the creamer's price has doubled since 2019, he unfolds his budget ledger like a war map. "I skip lunch most days," he confesses, his calloused hands steady but his eyes weary. 35 years in the classroom, pinching pennies for the golden years. Now, my fixed income's a joke against a 23% grocery hike. Tom's not whispering to shadows. The USDA's latest tallies show 14.3% of households, over 18 million grappling with food insecurity in 2023. A stubborn shadow that 2025 hasn't shaken, leaving pantries as battlegrounds where dignity goes to fray. Listen close, and you can hear the undercurrent of their anger, not the explosive kind that shatters glass, but the slow, searing burn that hollows you out. Maria's comes in flashes. The time she gripped her cart so tight the wheels squeaked. Hot tears blurring the price labels as she muttered, "Why does feeding my kids feel like a crime? I'm not lazy. I'm exhausted. It's the humiliation of choosing between gas for the school drop-off or milk for breakfast, a mother's love twisted into triage." Tom's quieter, etched in the lines around his eyes as he clutches a faded photo of his grandkids. I built futures for hundreds of students. Now I'm the one in line at the food bank, head down, praying no one I know drives by. It's not just hunger, it's the theft of pride. Across the heartland, food banks report a 20% demand surge this fall. Shelves stripped bare as families confess in hushed tones. Dinners skipped to keep the lights on, weekends without weekends because the fridge echoes empty. This frustration isn't abstract. It's the parent lying awake at 3 a.m., tallying calories like a miser, wondering if tough times will teach their children resilience or resentment. But here's where the story turns not to despair, but to the fierce ingenuity that defines us. These families aren't crumbling. They're reshaping, forging tools from the scraps of what's left. Sarah, with her warehouse aches still fresh, found solace in a neighborhood garden co-op, trading sweat for soil-rich tomatoes that stretch her dollars 15% further. It's more than food, she tells me, dirt smudged on her cheek like war paint. It's reclaiming control, one row at a time. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Stephanie Lane, mother to 4 rambunctious souls, has mastered the art of the pivot. Bulk oats simmered into breakfast porridges, bean soups bulked with whatever whispers sail from the shelf. No more lavish family spreads, she admits, stirring a pot that steams with memory more than meat. But these recipes? They taste like us, stubborn, stretched thin, but whole. Echoing reports from across He miles, millions are ditching variety for volume, their carts a testament to calculated grace. Rural barter rings in the Midwest hum with the same spirit, eggs swapped for flour. Venison for veggies slashing costs 10 to 20% through sheer neighborly grit, as community surveys from the USDA affirm. And in the glow of smartphone screens, apps like Too Good To Go scoop up near-expired gems at half price, handing back $50 a month to those who hunt the deals. Yet adaptation is a fierce companion, not a cure, a threadbare quilt against a storm that rages on. So many hold their breath for stronger sales, SNAP benefits. That $351 lifeline for a family of 4, stretched thin over just 3 weeks of groceries. Advocates at the Food Research and Action Center point to history's lessons recession-era boosts that carved insecurity down 30%, igniting local markets in the bargain. Families dream of school meals that bridge the gaps, covering weekends for the 14 million kids caught in the crossfire, or clearer chains from farm to fork to tame egg volatility long after the flu fades. Nonprofits bridge the now. Feeding America's vast web delivered 5 billion meals last year, a communal hand extended as food-at-home inflation simmers at 1.9% into year's end. The road ahead calls for us all. Experts at Yale's Budget Lab whisper of simple shields like meal mapping, reclaiming 10% of budgets through savvy sales hunts. City fridges, brimming with neighborly offerings, feed dozens from a single shared space. And deeper still, steadying those fragile supply lines, smarter farm aids, less waste could wheel prices back to the gentle 2.6% hum of yesteryear. What they hope for isn't handouts or headlines. It's balance, a world where a nurse's wage weaves wholeness, where a teacher's twilight years taste of security, not scrimping. As Maria confided over her modest soup, I just want my boys to chase stars, not shadows from an empty plate. If Sarah's quiet resolve Maria's unyielding fire, or Tom's steadfast grace tugged at your own stories of stretching further, then feels fair, share the weight drop alike to lift these voices higher, or comment your go-to grocery lifeline that's kept the Volt from your door this year. And if this pulse beats in you too, subscribe to Asterisk, the American Pulse Asterisk, and ring that bell. Together, we're not just witnessing the grind, we're mapping the ways through it, one shared truth at a time. But the weight doesn't lift at the checkout line. Coming next to Asterisk, the American Pulse Asterisk, we step into the rent trap. Why 22 million renters face eviction fears in America's housing crisis. We'll trace the urban unraveling, leases leaping like wildfires, families teetering on the edge, and the heartbreaking surge in street-side solitude that's redrawing our cityscapes. It's closer than you think, and more urgent than ever. Tune in, let's keep the beat alive.